All right. Today's knowledge nugget is on letting go to stay connected. And I know that that's a paradox because this is one of those paradoxes that show up in a lot of these parent coaching programs. Why is there such a focus on having parents let go when the natural tendency is really to cling, to grab, to hold on? And the reason why this is a problem is because the natural push-pull in relational dynamics in psychology. So the more one person pushes, the other person kind of pulls. And so that's how we maintain this funny out of equilibrium, the status quo. One of the examples that came to me as I was putting some of these ideas together is I have this memory. And it's probably a true memory, but it's kind of like a nightmare. And maybe you guys have experienced this, but I remember when my kids were really little. One in particular, he was standing on, we had this, it's not an island in the kitchen, but it's the L, countertop that's kind of surrounding the kitchen. He was standing on it. And I was by the sink, and he starts walking backwards, okay? And I'm going, no. I'm freaking out because I can see that if he continues moving backwards in the direction that he was going, he's going to get hurt. And what was interesting is I tried to tell him no, but he wasn't understanding what I was saying. And so as I went to go get him, he took the last step off the back and crashed to the floor. And it frustrated me and it pained me because my very effort to try to save him was the thing that finally pushed him over the freaking edge. And I think sometimes as parents with teenagers, we inadvertently do the same thing because to not do something is counter to our natural impulse of trying to do the best that we can to create a sense of connection and safety for our teenagers, for our kids. So how do we do that now? How are we inadvertently putting a hold onto our teenager where they're starting to pull away to get more of that autonomy and independence? And they do it much like my son, who doesn't look in the direction that they are going, that they are just fighting the effort to be controlled, to be helped, if you will. And then they fall right off, the back end and get hurt. Well, some of the ways that we do that is we do it by trying to control. And I know that's a strong phrase. We try to control, but bear with me for a second. We try to control their behavior. We try to control their thoughts. We actually try to control their feelings. And we do that by controlling the behavior. What we do is we create threats. We have these consequences that are designed to prevent them from doing things, not as a response for when they do them, but we literally create consequences that we don't intend to follow through with. In fact, we don't want to follow through with. We think the consequences themselves should guide the behavior. Sometimes we get intimidating. Sometimes our anger is a way to control their behavior. We nag. Hold on, I gotta respond. Okay, I'm letting this other guy in. So we nag things, we badger. And so those are things that we do to try to control someone's behavior. Well, what about thoughts? Sometimes we lecture ad nauseum about what someone's doing. And we don't like what they're doing, and we think that if we can just talk to them enough, explain the situation enough, that it'll magically change their minds. And so as soon as we can see that they're thinking in a direction that seems like counterproductive, not going to get them ultimately what they want, instead of us talking through it with them, we literally explain to them how what they're thinking isn't the right thought. And even though our logic is perfectly sound and we are totally nailing it, it's not like they're taking notes. Gee, Dad, that was brilliant. Oh, I'm so glad you told me. What they normally do is go, that's probably true for 99.9% of people, but I don't think you know who I am. That's probably not going to apply to me. And so even if you're logical and reasonable, it still doesn't work. Behavior, thoughts, and feelings. We try to control their feelings. We don't like it when they feel a certain way. It makes us uncomfortable when they're uncomfortable, when they're frustrated, disappointed, miffed, bugged. And how does that come out in us? When they're frustrated with the situation. How often do we jump in to explain why they feel the way they do? Even if they're frustrated, disappointed with us, we explain our intentions, our behavior, why we did what we did, as if to logically change how they feel. So these are just some of the tactics that we use to control them in their behavior, in their thoughts, and in their feelings. We do all of those things. Why do we do that? For two reasons. One of them is a selfless reason. The other one's a selfish reason. The first reason why we do this is because we want our kids to not have to go through some of the things that we went through. We don't want them to suffer, especially that needless suffering. We want to save them from that suffering. In fact, we want them to feel good. We want them to be comfortable. We want to prevent them from having to go through all of this pain. So that's one of the reasons why we're so controlling. The other reason, not so selfless, it's more selfish, and that is because our names are on the line, right? We have taken it upon ourselves to evaluate our success as a human being / parent based on the choices that our kids make. Now, why do we think that? Well, because we have these behavioralists like Skinner and Pavlov that have propagated this delusion that great parents that do things the right way can only create offspring that are well behaved and committed and productive and respectful and responsible. Because if you can train a rat or a dog, well, they're not near as smart as a human being, so it might be even easier to train a human being. That is delusional. That thought is ridiculous. So when we buy into this idea, which has been socially accepted, in fact, think about how many parents you know, or you yourself, that when you're on the precipice of having your kid get gooned, you're wondering, how am I going to deal with this? Personally, socially. Like, you hate to admit it, but you're like going, man, do I like to wear instead of the scarlet letter, do I have to wear a badge that says I suck as a parent, that I suck as a human being? Because there's this shame and guilt that comes from buying into the belief that our kids' behavior, their choices, are a perfect reflection of our parenting. Well, that's delusional, even though so many people believe it. We even hear it and we go, of course that's preposterous. But can I have another glass of that Kool-Aid, please? I'm going to drink some more of that because I believe that, even though the evidence is so far on the contrary. In fact, when I was a therapist, as a new student, I was working with some parents, and the therapist pulled me aside and said, Emil, I don't even think parents have like a 10% influence in how teenagers develop. Like, seriously, it's like, it's almost insignificant. It doesn't mean they shouldn't try, right? But don't put too much pressure on them, because at best, maybe 10%. 10% is terrible. So, I mean, and what has more impact on the influence of kids? Media and their friends. That's what has the huge impact on teenagers. So we just have a slight influence. What we want to do is we want to maximize that influence. And today's knowledge nugget is going to help us overcome our natural tendency actually to create more problems. We're going to learn how to let go to stay connected instead of cling and create distance. All right, Emil, so how do you do this? Great, nice, you set us all up. We all suck as parents. Now what? Well, here's the deal. We all suck as parents. Welcome. Yep, we all suck as parents. And the sooner we can accept that and let go, okay, how do we let go? We let go of the idea that somehow our perfection is going to create correction in our kids. No. In fact, our correction, the way that we embrace accountability for our mistakes, is actually going to have a huge impact. So when we think about letting go, there's two main categories for letting go. There's principally, and then there's tactically. Earlier this year, I was fortunate enough to go to South Africa, where I got to be in those villages, the Maasai villages, where, you know, those round villages where they jump really high and they hold the sticks and they wear those red colorful robes. And I talked with the people there and asked them about how do they get their kids to do all these chores. Like, these guys there's like 6-year-old kids that are watching like 20 head of cattle. You're like, you got to be kidding me. How do you get those kids to do those things? Or the kids that are little and they're carrying this big things of water on their head, or bushels of twigs. And they're just doing it like there's an option, right? There is no option. And I asked them, well, how do they do that? Well, one of the things that sounded really good, the other thing that didn't sound so good, one is, well, if they don't work, then they don't eat. That's just how it works. Everybody who has the capacity to work has to work. And we give them responsibilities that they can do. If they don't do them, there are two consequences. Number one, they don't eat. And number two, which doesn't sound so good, they might get beat. Why? And I'm not endorsing beating. Oh, please don't say, well, Emil says you should beat your kids. No. The consequences there are so serious, because if one person doesn't do their part, then everybody suffers. And so they use punishment and training. Okay, they train the kids and they expect them to do it. If they don't do it, they don't eat. They don't eat. That's uncomfortable. And so it doesn't take a lot of failures. In fact, most of the time, all they have to do is see what's going on with the brothers and the cousins and whoever is older than them, and see how they are and go, I don't want that. And so the natural consequences and the discomfort that comes from those natural consequences are magical motivators. But in our world, we are surrounded by comfort. Okay? The natural consequences for a kid, and think about it. They don't even have to go get anything from the store. Like, food shows up on their plate. Boom, magical. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to work in the yard. They don't have to gather twigs to build a fire. They don't have to go kill a rabbit and skin it. They don't have to grow a garden. So our society and the way of life the luxuries that we have now, and technology is separating us way faster than our evolution can handle. And so we're not able to process these things. And so we're getting all this information, technology, and information like theories, philosophies, and those are converging in a way that creates an unrealistic expectation. We're expected to parent in a way that's with love and logic when you're scrambling to figure out, well, what are the natural consequences to this? The natural consequences, they lose their phone. Like, in the real world, phones don't exist in most of the world, especially for kids. So what we're doing is we have to construct something similar, as close as we can, to what the natural consequences would be. And we don't even have enough time to assimilate research data during this period of time to know how to most effectively handle teenagers, how to help them. We got depression and substance abuse and mood disorders and personality disorders. They're just, it's running rampant. And what's happening is we're gathering data on the fly, on the run, okay? And we're just using the information that we can, and everyone's a guinea pig. You're a guinea pig too. I'm a guinea pig. Because the way things have been for hundreds or thousands of years is very, very different now. So if you're failing, or you feel like you're failing as a parent, welcome to the club. We're all failing as a parent. Pain and discomfort, okay, principally, how do we change things, is we need to realize, embrace that discomfort, pain is the motivator. So when we protect them from discomfort, we're literally sabotaging the motivation. We have to realize that if we're trying to control their behavior or their thoughts or their feelings, like their feelings when they're frustrated and disappointed, we literally can confuse the crap out of them when we're explaining ourselves when they're frustrated and disappointed. Think about it. If I'm explaining myself, if I'm scrambling to justify what I'm doing, then I'm literally sending a message to my son or daughter that I'm the reason, I'm the problem. I did something wrong, and how they feel needs to be corrected. Why am I letting them know that it's my fault that they're upset and that I have to fix it somehow? So I need to let go of the idea that I need to fix how they feel. Okay? I need to let go of needing to be that perfect parent. Okay? I need to let go. In fact, if I let go of needing to be the perfect parent, then I can embrace being a normal parent, a real parent, a humble, accountable parent that admits his or her mistakes. Because if I admit my mistakes and I own it without explaining, justifying, rationalizing, okay, minimizing, then what I'm doing is I'm setting an example for what they need to do without any coercion. So principally, we need to get out of our own way. We need to let them fail. We need to let them succeed. So how do we do it tactically? How do we do it like boots on the street kind of thing? Well, we have tools in the toolbox, okay? For example, when those conversations come up, what we need to do is when they're in an emotion, let them be in the emotion. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to explain ourselves. If they're frustrated or disappointed, remember those are declarations. I'm this, I'm that. This is frustrating, or I'm done, or I don't want to be here. We don't need to fix it. We can just let them be there. In fact, we can go there with them. Oh gosh, you sound like you're really frustrated, man. This is the last place you ever thought you'd be. This is nowhere where you would want to be. I can totally see why this is sucking for you. when we go there with them tactically, they don't know where to go. But if we explain ourselves, then what we're telling them is we got to fix it. Well, that leads them, that kind of opens up the back door for them to avoid accountability for what they need to do. See, if I just go with them with it, yeah, I'm frustrated. What are they going to do next? They can stay there, or they can go, this sucks. I don't want to be frustrated anymore. So what am I going to do to get out of the situation? How am I going to apply myself more? If we let them be disappointed in us, and how do we do that? Tactically, we embrace the truth of the criticisms that they send to us. Well, you did this, and you did that, and you did this. You're right, I did. Or I can see how it seems like that, how it comes across like that. See, when we validate their criticisms, again, they get to a dead end. Each time we let go of trying to control them and we embrace it, okay? We embrace the truth of these things. We literally sabotage their natural tactics to distract themselves from the accountability that's always been theirs to make the choices that they're responsible to make. When we save them from that disappointment, we rob them from the motivation. Let them be disappointed. In fact, with this new perspective, if you think about what you guys have done, how did you guys get independent? How did you guys develop responsibility? One of two things. Either you decided that you wanted to experience more out of life than what was given to you, so you're going to amp up and ramp up and do something different, or the fear of failure, disappointment, and misery, or actual experience of poverty was like, I don't want to go there. I don't want that pain and misery. I got to do something different. And next thing you know, in the motivation to get away from discomfort and pain, which is very important, or which sometimes is the first thing that motivates us, okay? The fear of poverty, not knowing how we're going to pay our bills, not knowing how we're going to eat, or financial dependence. We don't want that. It's miserable. It's embarrassing. So what do? We're probably motivated primarily out of the discomfort. And then once we get out of that discomfort, we're like going, you know what? I can make progress doing this. I wonder how good things can be. I'm going to apply myself. I'm going to sacrifice. I'm going to be committed. So if those are the things that motivated you, why would it be any different for your son or daughter? We need to let them experience the discomfort and pain. So with that said, to wrap it all up, the magical solution is to embrace their discomfort as the fuel for motivation, not something that we want to protect them from.